I am not worried at all. I think they are sleepwalking. I think they know they are better than these last two teams they played. They just haven't found the type of edge that Kirby Smart and the players would have liked going into the games to play at that level. Georgia is still in the upper echelon easily. They can still win the national championship again. Those were comments from ESPN Game Days host Rece Davis, who has been around the block for a while. He joined that show, I think, on Wednesday, and he also said he moved them down from number one to number two, I believe he said, in his AP ballot, which I don't think is necessarily a you know sort of stunning announcement after Georgia survived at Missouri. But you talk about folks that are taking a 40,000-foot view. I don't know if Rece Davis watched Georgia play. I value folks who have the ability to watch the full games, and you can do that, particularly on YouTube. If you have, probably I'd say you can watch the bulk of the country in about the teams that matter in about 6 to 10 hours. Excuse me, if you have that kind of time going through and watching the whole game from that week. Some broadcasters do that. I don't know if Rece Davis did that or not, but his point is that he's saying, hey, look, I'm not worried at all. I think the Dogs are sleepwalking. And I think, it depends on who you talk to in Athens. I mean, that's the good and the bad of it is, folks in Athens, of course, are totally partisan towards the Dogs. Hey, if you pick up DAWGSTRUCTION today, you're going to get a Red Zone t-shirt. You got to email me. You got to email pretty quickly. You're going to get this included free. Our friends at Red Zone are throwing that in. You can also go into their store and grab it. Look, I think the big thing, and the link is down below for that. The big thing for the game is, you know, that you win, whether you're Alabama, Ohio State, or Georgia. And for the 36 games that are going to be played by these three teams this season, they're all going to be overanalyzed. I mean, they just kind of are. And I did a comparison just now for our show that we're doing on Friday at Paloma Park from 4 to 7. That's downtown in Athens during happy hour. I did a comparison of the top five betting favorites right now for the Heisman Trophy. And of course, Alabama's Bryce Young is in there. Stetson Bennett is the number five. You have CJ Stroud. They're all in there. And Stroud has thrown, I think, 18 touchdowns or something. It's quite an impressive gauntlet of plays. But Georgia has the best win nationally. And that's all there is to it because Oregon has taken off since leaving Atlanta. They scored 70 the next week later. I mean, Alabama's best win, and I'm not pooping on Alabama here. It's either Texas who is at 3-2 or Arkansas who is at 3-2, and Arkansas is not looking like they did, coming into the Texas A&M game. There should not have lost that game. Okay, um, so and then Ohio State's best win. Is Notre Dame, who is also, I believe, 3-2, unless I've gone crazy. Now I'm going to look this up right now because I think they have. I can't I can't quickly go. I should know that off the top of my head. Look at this. You just can't. I just need the record, fellas. I don't. Yeah, they are 2-2. Excuse me, with the loss to Ohio State and then the loss to Marshall. That loss escaped me, but um, I don't know if Notre Dame is good. I don't know, but this Georgia team is, you know, Ohio State has only, survived Notre Dame. Georgia had to survive Missouri. I'm not talking about them surviving Kent State. They want to get by 17. I mean, we're taking knees at the end of the game. Okay, so that's not survival. That's just not playing as well as you'd like. But this team has got a long way to go as this season moves forward. And the question is that the worst we're going to see Georgia play, or do they have another game that bad in them? Now, I wrote in Final Feelings that this Georgia team uh, has got, a season ago, Georgia did not play well against Florida. And I don't know if folks just sort of forgot that in the moment or not or what, but there are times when this team has not played well um, under Kirby Smart. It happens. What is harder to you know know, I guess, is if that's a pattern or if that's something that's a one-time thing. I think comparing a season ago to now is a little dangerous, but that Florida game was similar to the Missouri game. And why? Well, the offense just didn't play well. I mean, they just didn't. And in the first half, the reason why the game was out of control and Georgia was up 24-0 was because of the defense. Um, they broke the Gators. I mean, Kirby talked about it, and it's written in the book. I do not explicitly write out the cuss words, but they're bleeped out for lack of a better term. But Georgia's defense didn't allow any points. And then number two, they basically handed Georgia 21 points on the offensive side of the ball, if I'm not mistaken. Nolan Smith grabbed that ball from Anthony Richardson and set up an 11-yard touchdown from James Cook. Next possession, interception from N'Kobe Dean rushing, and then Trayvon Walker tipping, and then Nolan Smith catching. And that set up that really probably one of Stetson's best throws of the year to get Georgia up 17-0. Okay, the game was over at that point. But just to make sure, Anthony Richardson pick six to N'Kobe Dean, 24-0 with time running out in the half. Florida was indeed broken by the Dogs. That's part of this. But that's what this game was like when you take out the defensive performance from Georgia against Missouri. I mean, they only allowed 16 points in the first half. But if Florida had 16 and Georgia was at 24, that people would be freaking out about that last game. So I don't know if you can really make a conclusive statement about how about how sort of in trouble Georgia is. So with what Rece Davis is saying, and I'll reread it here. He says, "I'm not worried at all." Now remember, he took them from 1-2, but people took Alabama from 1-2. He says, "I'm not worried at all. I think Georgia is sleepwalking. I think they know they are a lot better than these last two teams they played. They just haven't found the type of edge that Kirby Smart and the players have liked going into these games to play at that level," talking about at a high level. Georgia is still in that upper echelon. Easily, they can still win the national championship again. They can. And let's not get into this false conversation about which Georgia is it. No, this is Georgia. Like they're the team that beat Oregon by 1,000,000 and the team that beat South Carolina by 1,000,000. They're the same team that struggled against Missouri on the road. Now, Georgia, as I wrote again, and if you're not reading Final Feelings, you're missing it here. Okay, if you're not reading Final Feelings, you're making a mistake. I'm also, by the way, if you're still looking for tickets to this game, all right, if you're still looking for tickets to the Auburn game, our friends at Ticket IQ have got you covered. Make sure you click. I'm going to put a link down below for your bet. A lot of people are asking me about the Georgia Auburn game. Ticket IQ has got you covered. I've got a link straight to the Auburn game. I'm going to make it the top link. Okay, so if you're still looking for tickets, check that link out. All right. What this, so this team, as I've discussed multiple times, is definitely different than the teams in the past, than last year's team. But that's got to be an explanation and not an excuse. Kirby's dealing with a different monster here. This is a team that, they're not better than they were last year. They're not. I'm sorry. They just I don't need to say I'm sorry. They're not better than last year. It's just what it is. Now, could they grow to that? That's going to be hard to do. But because of that, folks need to realize that these aren't just all going to be blowouts. People forget in 21, people just forgot the Clemson game. Like, it happened, and then everybody was consumed with JT being hurt and when is JT coming back. That was the consumption. Everybody was going crazy the whole season. That's not This season is not going to be like that. Now, I was going to mention the night games. Now, I'm going to go off the top of my head. If you're not reading Final Feelings, you're making a mistake. 2016 at Missouri, won on the last play of the game. 2016 Kentucky at Kentucky, excuse me, won on the last play of the game. In 17, amazingly, they did not play on the road. In 19, they opened the season against Vanderbilt and crush them. Tennessee, crush them on the road. So, and then they lost to Alabama in 2020. I'm skipping the night game at Notre Dame because that was not a conference game, but night games can be pretty dangerous. Obviously, the game against Clemson and at night in Charlotte, that was a tight game. And then, they lost to Alabama in 20. And the South Carolina game, I mean, in 2020, they didn't even have their head coach. That guy is now coaching at Georgia. So you've got to be ready on the road. Either you win or you don't. Now, Georgia's won all those games except the Alabama game in 20. But it is really tough to play at night, maybe in a way on the road, in a way that we didn't really kind of appreciate coming into that thing. Georgia's not played on the road in the league in 2 years. I mean, last year their road games were what? They played at Auburn's 3:30. Jacksonville obviously was 3:30. Vanderbilt at noon, and someone else that they played. So it just wasn't, they played in white more than half the season though. That's the part that's so sort of nuts about last year was how often. Oh, Tennessee, yeah, Tennessee, and that Tennessee game was not a night game. It was a 3:30 game. Those become night games this time of year. That game was touch and go for a second there until the second quarter. You got to be ready to go. Now they got to play better, but again, this is what Rece Davis said. I'm going to repeat it one last time. I'm not worried at all. Georgia is still in the upper echelon. Easily, they can still win the national championship again, but they got to play better. They got to play better. I expect them to against Auburn. Make sure you're clicking the links down below.